It had been a complicated day. Katie discovered that you can't always have Mom and Dad stay home, even if you want to. Orbie found out that doing up a tie is very confusing. And they both learned that walking around in Mom and Dad's shoes when they needed them to go out wasn't a good idea. Mom and Dad needed to hurry. They would be late if they didn't leave right away. Dad was going to watch Mom win an award for her work. He was very excited. Mom was nervous because she wasn't so sure she'd win. After 3 good luck kisses from both Orbie and Katie and a thumbs up from Tom, they finally closed the door. Now, Katie and Orbie loved it when Tom came over because he played with them and they all had fun. But tonight, Tom told them that he had a big project to do for school. Katie and Orbie weren't too sure what a project was, but they wanted to help him. Tom explained that he had to do the project himself. He said that Mom had suggested that tonight Katie and Orbie watch a video while he did his project. Orbie looked at Katie, and Katie looked right back. They almost never had videos on a weeknight. This was a real treat. Within minutes, they were at the video store. Katie and Orbie kept running to Tom with different videos, but they couldn't agree on one. Finally, Orbie found one that looked like fun. Katie thought it looked like fun, too. It was not really a movie for young children, but Tom didn't notice that. He rented the movie, and they walked back home. At home, Tom made popcorn and set Katie and Orbie up in front of the TV. He turned it on and then told them he'd better leave before the movie starts or he would want to watch it, too. He went into the kitchen and started his work. When the movie started, Orbie could barely contain himself. It was an action-adventure story, and Orbie loved these. Katie liked it, too, because the man who was talking at the beginning was very funny. They snuggled up and munched on popcorn as the movie played. Tom came in twice to see if everything was all right. When he saw that the 2 friends were happy, he went back to his work without watching the screen. He knew if he looked, he'd be in trouble. After a while, Katie came into the kitchen and asked if Tom was finished his work yet. Tom wasn't even nearly done, but he did give Katie a quick ride around the kitchen on his back to get to the fridge, where he poured her another glass of juice. Later, Orbie came in and tooted to Tom. He asked if a man could really lift up one end of a truck. Tom thought about it for a moment and said that maybe 1 or 2 men in the whole world could, but that it was probably too heavy for almost everybody else. Orbie shot back to the movie. Katie was watching the movie, but she'd pulled the blanket over her cheeks and almost over her eyes. Orbie wondered why she was doing that. Katie told him the movie was scaring her. Orbie burbled that was just silly because there was nothing scary on the screen. He sat down beside Katie and watched the video. Katie was now right under the blanket and blocking her ears. Orbie borrowed a little piece of the blanket and held it to his hands. This part was a bit scary. Tom finished up his homework and closed his books. He took a juice out of the fridge and walked back into the living room. Katie and Orbie were nowhere to be seen. Tom was very worried until he noticed 2 huddled bumps under the covers. On the TV, there was a big, horrible red-eyed monster. Tom looked at it for a second, and then he turned it right off. He told Katie and Orbie the movie was off now, so they could come out. Orbie peeked out first, then came Katie. They were both very frightened. Tom explained that there was really no such thing as a red-eyed monster. It was a costume with a man inside it. He explained that all the creatures and monsters in the movies were make-believe. None of them really existed. Actors in strange costumes played the parts. When Tom looked at Katie and Orbie, and he saw 4 eyes as big as saucers, he began to understand that he had made a mistake. He apologized to the 2 terrified friends and told them that he shouldn't have rented that movie. The movie was for older children, and he should have known better than to rent it for them. He explained that he didn't know what kind of movies they usually watched. Even though Tom explained about the movie and that it wasn't real, both Katie and Orbie still looked frightened and uncomfortable. So Tom made a decision. He had finished his project, and now he would make them forget about the movie before they went to bed. At first, he did his best wobbly walker imitation. Orbie giggled, but Katie still couldn't think funny. Then he offered pony rides around the room and a turn on the bucking bronco. When it was Katie's turn, she laughed so hard that she almost fell off. At bedtime, Tom told them a story of Wiggly the worm who wanted to find his way into an apple. First he bumped his nose, and then he hurt his side trying to push the apple open, and finally he got so angry at the apple, he bit it. And guess what? He found his way in. Well, I have to tell you that Tom doing the imitation of Wiggly the worm and the silly story combined made Katie and Orbie laugh. Even when Tom turned out the light and left the room, they were still chuckling. When Mom came home with her award, she kissed both Katie and Orbie. Katie told her about the movie, and Mom said she was glad that Katie had realized it was not a good movie to watch. She told Katie that when she was older and knew more about how movies were made, she might like to watch something like that. Katie said she didn't think so. Mom said it was good to be a discriminating viewer, which means to watch what you think is good for you. And do you know, you should be a discriminating viewer too, because you're growing a special person. And that special person is you.